What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we are going to be taking a look at some new discards from Set 2 Age of Ascension that were revealed on a recent livestream by the lovely folks over at Fantasy Flight Games. And we've got a few to look at, so let's jump straight in, having a look at Ember Imp. Now, I still don't know how to pronounce this word. Some people say Ember, but that's not an E. Some people say Amber, but that's not an A. My best guess would be something like Amber Imp, because A and E makes a different sound. I don't really know. But of course, we can't just call it Ember Imp. We have Ember Imp. It was one of the, best / most annoying cards back in Set 1. It was a 2-power creature with no armor that restricted your opponent to playing 2 cards per turn. So, maybe Amber Imp for now? And then hope we never get one of those. It's a 2-power creature with no armor, and it's got elusive, which means the first time it's attacked each turn, it doesn't take any damage. Or to put it a different way, if your opponent wants to destroy this, they've got to attack it twice. The first time, you don't take any damage. The second time, they can take you down. But it's got a ridiculous skill. After a creature reaps, stun it. Yeah, that's ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. Like, over the top, crazy ridiculous. Every single time any creature reaps, stun it. And it doesn't say enemy creature, it says creature. That is yours, and it is your opponent's, which is incredibly strange. So this is one of those ridiculous risk-reward cards. Because on the one hand, it can absolutely stop your opponent reaping. On the other hand, it can stop you reaping. So I suppose it's great when your opponent wants to reap more than you, and very bad otherwise. Unless there's some card in Wave 2 which is great when you've got stunned creatures, but I'm not sure that's coming. Stun is generally a bad thing. Here's what's weird. This is not the first reaping hate we've seen in Set 2. In the Mars video we looked at previously, we had Ember Conduction Unit, an artifact which stuns the first enemy creature that reaps each turn. And then we saw the even more ridiculous Zizix Shockworm, which stuns every enemy creature that reaps. So it's actually Amber Imp here, but only for your opponent's reaping, not for yours. And then in the Sanctum video we looked at yesterday, we almost kind of took it a step further, and we had Barrister Joya who was just like, yeah, you can't reap. Enemy creatures cannot reap. Because at least with Amber Imp here, you can reap, get the Ember and go, you know what? At least I got it. It's not that bad that I'm stunned. Can't do that here, ladies and gentlemen. You reap, you stunned. So it's probably less devastating than Barrister Joya. Point is, we have not seen that many cards from Set 2 yet, and we've already seen a lot of hate for reaping. Hey, we're getting a creature called Gub. I don't know how much I like Gub. So Gub is a 1-power creature with no armor. It literally couldn't be weaker. But it's got a skill that says as long as it isn't on a flank, it gets +5 power and taunt. Now, taunt is a thing that says that you cannot attack the neighbors, you've got to attack it unless the neighbors have taunt. So the creatures on either side of Gub cannot be attacked as long as Gub is not on a flank. If Gub is on a flank, then the creature next to it, there will only be one because it's on a flank by definition, that can be attacked. But otherwise, you can't attack, and we've got a 6-power creature. So it ain't going to last very long. This is going to be taken down fairly quickly. Your opponent is going to be able to take down Gub. But they've got to take down Gub. They can't take down the creatures either side. And the fact of the matter is, 6 powers, not too bad. There's a whole bunch of creatures that are weaker. And here's the thing, right? Even if it's some big creature that's got more than 6 power, it's still got to take 6 damage. And that can add up pretty quickly. I'm not too sure how I feel about Gub. But if nothing else, it can save a couple of other creatures and then, you know, put some damage on the field. Now, we're getting Scullion. Scullion is a 7-power creature. And to be blunt, ladies and gentlemen, this didn't have that many big creatures in Wave 1. It was one of the kind of weaker but trickier houses. We did have a 7-power creature back in Wave 1. It was Overlord Grekking, which actually, when a creature was destroyed fighting it, got put into play under your control, which was kind of hilarious. And we did have the 7-power Troubadour, but you could only play it if you lost free Ember. And then we did have the 9-power Pit Lord, but if you and you got 2 Ember when you played Pit Lord, but you had to choose this as your active house, which makes it one of the more awkward creatures to actually play. Doesn't mean you can't play it, but it meant that you did have to be, let's just say you had to be extremely clear that you could either get it off the board or that you were willing to play this for a little while. So 7 power is good, and all those creatures I just told you about, none of them had armor. So as far as disc creatures go, there's a strong argument this is the most powerful disc creature we've seen so far. There must be a downside. There is. When you play it, you sacrifice a friendly creature. Now, it's not the end of the world. It's only one friendly creature, and hopefully you've got one you don't mind, and certainly what you can do is reap or fight with it, and then sacrifice it after it's basically been useful to you. So, it's not the end of the world, but come on, you guys know as well as I do here. There are going to be some games where there's a nice, easy, obvious candidate for a creature that you can sacrifice. And there's going to be plenty of games where you just don't want to sacrifice anything. And that's going to be an issue. Because if you've not got anything ready to sacrifice, then do you play this? Remember, at the end of your turn, you draw until you've got 6 cards in hand. So if you save a card for future turns, it rarely works out well. Generally speaking, saving a card, and this is not a hard and fast rule, but generally speaking, saving a card for future turns means that you draw 1 fewer card going into your turn, which you don't usually want to do. Usually that's a fairly bad thing, because you're just clogging up your hand with cards that you can't play. So you generally want to play it or discard it so you can draw more cards. And this is the problem. If you can't sacrifice a friendly creature, it goes wrong. If you can, you've got a 7-power creature with 2 armor. That's pretty beefy. We've also had an upgrade reveal. Now, bearing in mind, most houses only have like a couple of upgrades. It's Soulkeeper. You get an Ember bonus when you play it, which is nice. And the creature onto which you play it gains Destroyed. Destroy the most powerful enemy creature. So it's an upgrade. You stash it on one of your creatures, and when it gets destroyed, it destroys the most powerful enemy creature. And this is incredibly interesting to me, because it really leaves it over to your opponent. Well, that's not strictly true. You could destroy it using one of your own cards, and then destroy one of your opponents. But generally speaking, this is going to be up to your opponent. And there are going to be turns your opponent wants to destroy a creature, but then they know that if they destroy the creature, they're going to have to destroy one of their own, and it's going to be their most powerful. But they're going to know what their most powerful creature is, and that's going to be really, really interesting. It's going to force them into some weird situation where they want to KO your creature, but if they do, they're going to lose their own, and they know which one they're going to lose. So frankly, you put this on a creature you don't want to go down. You put this on an Amber Imp, so that your opponent has either got to lose their most powerful creature, or keep getting stunned every time they reap. I kind of like this. It's a fun little upgrade. I like the Ember bonus. Obviously, it'd be a lot worse without it. I don't know how I'd feel without the Ember bonus, but it has an Ember bonus. And then, it's a weird card, because like I say, your opponent could maybe put it off a turn or two. But to be honest, you put this upgrade on a creature, hoping that your opponent puts it off for a turn or two. And then they can't do anything. And the final card we've had revealed is Shard of Pain. Now, this is interesting to me because it's introducing a new mechanic. Now, we're going to go more into this into the Untamed video later today or tomorrow. But it is an item shard and it's an artifact. Now, we don't really know what shards are. The live stream this week was the first real note we got about these. But it's got an action. Deal 1 damage to an enemy creature for each friendly shard. Now, Shard of Pain is in and of itself a shard. Therefore, you just get to deal a damage every turn. Now, dealing 1 damage every turn doesn't really impress me, because that's Seeker Needle. Except Seeker Needle can damage yours or your opponent's, and you gain an Ember if you destroy, so Shard of Pain on the face of it is just a significantly worse Seeker Needle. But that's if you've got 1 shard out. You see, we were also shown Shard of Life, which is an untamed shard. Now that lets you shuffle a card from your discard pile into your deck for each friendly shard. So you've got to think here, and this is just supposition on my part, but you've got to think that there are 7 shards, 1 for each house, which means maximum number of shards you're ever going to have is 3, except you know sooner or later somebody's going to have some ridiculous deck where they get not 1 but 2 or 3 Maverick shards and they end up with 4 or 5 shards in a deck and it goes silly. The fact that, and these are rare cards, so the chances of getting a shard for each of your houses is probably quite slim, given that they're all rares. But you know this was set up on the live stream. This must have been. Oh, we're playing a live stream. What a coincidence. We've never shown shards before, and we have 2 in the same deck. I don't blame them. That's exactly what I would have done. And now I'm wondering, did they have the Sanctum shard as well? And if they did, would they mind showing it to me? So, this is one of those cards. If you just get Shard of Pain in your deck, I'm not terribly impressed. But if you have a couple of other shards as well, we can make something really, really good with this, and you can start doing a lot of damage. And like I said, it's unlikely, but all you need is 1 or 2 shards from other houses that come in as Mavericks, and all of a sudden you're dealing 4 damage to a creature every dis turn. And oh my lordy, it's awesome. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Some rather annoying cards, some very fun cards, and a new kind of mechanic, all of which makes me rather excited indeed. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I think about these new discards, but I would very much like to know what you think about them. So please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts! But please do remember the rule, ladies and gentlemen. Be nice, would ya? And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, and follow me on Twitter at the Wossy, where we talk about Transformers, and Keyforge, and Pokemon, and whatever else takes my fancy. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.